Hello and welcome to a very special episode 139 of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason, and today we're joined by
Dan Sutton, the other brother and son of Bill Sutton from the West Coast.
and Dan has been on here before, and if you know, Dan works in the video game industry, so we're going to talk a little more, game, different kinds of game sport, I guess you would call them on some level.
Yes, we would call them sports. I realize we're still fighting for acceptance in many places, but our latest numbers show that we had more viewers of our finals than the NFL Super Bowl, and so we'll just take some of those stats to the bank for the time being.
I think that's fair. I think that's definitely fair. So you were talking a bit about, so you guys are coming up on your 10th anniversary of your game, which is pretty
10 years. 10 years of one game, and the original founders' vision, the reason they started Riot Games and the reason they made League of Legends was they felt that developers make things and within a year or two kind of move on and either want you to buy a new one or they abandon it because they're not making enough returns, so they can't keep the servers alive. And their vision and hypothesis was if they made a game like League of Legends and dedicated updates every 2 weeks religiously, that we would keep a player base. And as of today, I can tell you that we have 100 million players globally and 8 million playing daily of a 10-year-old game.
And that's, even if you don't know gaming, you can tell that that's pretty incredible. Like, it's tough to keep.
Yeah, to put it in perspective for the average listener and person who's gone into a Walmart or a Target and seen a Call of Duty game or one of the other titles maybe they purchased for their son or daughter. Those games, if they sell 3 to 5 million copies, are very successful. Now we're doing that at 100 million, and I mean active today. Over the course of the last 10 years, we're talking about 3 to 400 million people who have actually played and downloaded our game,
which is unbelievable. And again, like you said, with Call of Duty,
yes,
it's an annual franchise, meaning they have to come out with a brand new game every single year, as opposed to continuing updating
every year.
And
they're working off of a model that says you got to pay $60 and go to a store, and we've worked in a model that we make a really good quality game and we'll make it free. And if you enjoy playing it and you like playing it, you will actively engage in the content that we do sell. But that content doesn't make you better. It doesn't make you improve your game. It just makes you look different.
And again, I know I'm sure we have some gamers in our audience, but maybe not as many as a typical gaming show. But a lot of the controversy over the last few years has been in the purchasing of things, where it's like you either buy things that make you better than other players, which creates an unfair landscape where if somebody else can spend $100 extra on the game and they can destroy you, then it's no fun for the other player. So it makes it an uneven playing field. And then the other way, of course, is the controversial loot box gambling system that we were discussing offline that you have some really good points on. So
yeah, it's a crazy world. Free to play games and games as a service. Everybody that's listening has heard of Fortnite by now. Fortnite is a free to play game, and how do they make money? They make money by selling skins and music and pickaxes to the average player. And what they've done really well is played across pop culture. When Guardians of the Galaxy came out, they had some of the characters from that movie available to buy. When Batman's Anniversary came out last month, they had Batman available to buy. And they also did a concert with Marshmello that a lot of people in sports have seen, which had a huge return on selling purchasable skins of Marshmello, as well as having players go to a virtual concert to watch a virtual Marshmello do a concert in, the internet space. For Riot, we feel that music is important to games. We put a lot of time into it. We worked with Zed. We worked with Imagine Dragons. We have a new song that came out today, actually, that is to support our new World Final that's going to happen in Paris in early November. So every game company is just trying to find a way to provide a service to the players that lasts for, ideally generations, And for us, particularly, we want to make value for the things that they do spend. So instead of loot boxes and instead of randomly generated things, we like to just show players what's available and allow them to purchase those things outright. But nothing that we sell will make a player play better or have more power. Conversely, the parent company of Riot Games, Tencent, has made a game very similar to League of Legends in China. It's called King of Glory. And they decided to sell different champions in their game that made you more powerful. So they sold Batman for $20. And Batman was better than any other champion in the game. And we feel that that's really not the way that is fair to players. If one player can pay and one player can't, it should be decided by skill, not by an item that you purchased that suddenly made you a better player.
And I mean, if you play a game enough, it's nice. You want to support the game, and that's why you end up buying the skins. And if you played enough too, you want to see. I've been buying aesthetic items, I guess, or visual items. I bought the controversial horse armor from Elder Scrolls Skyrim way back in the day, just because I wanted my horse to look cool. And I think there's plenty too.
And there is, and I think, it's funny. I don't play Fortnite much. I did for work about a year ago, but when John Wick came to Fortnite, even though I hadn't played Fortnite in like 3 months, I turned on Fortnite, bought the John Wick skin, and then turned off Fortnite and did not play with the John Wick skin because I didn't want to miss out. And I think more games are starting to see that trend that you're going to invest in this account for a while, and you might not play today, but you might come back next week or next month. And you want to have some of these things as signs that you're devoted to the game and that you care about the developers. We find that a lot of players want to support the developers because we give them so much. This is their way of showing that they support what we do.
And on that same note, I know a number of people that, I work in the film industry, so I work with a lot of people that do game in their free time. And even though they're currently playing, Borderlands and Destiny, a few weeks ago, they all said they logged on. The people that were big Fortnite people logged on, bought their Batman skins, and haven't actually used them, but they wanted to make sure that they had them, just in case they decide to go back to the game. So, like you said, it's a great way. If the developer treats you right, it's a good way for them to come, people to come back and be like, I don't know when I'm going to play Fortnite again, but if I decide to, I want to be Batman, and it's a win-win. They get their Batman,
and it's really crazy. But I think the good thing about it is everybody's decided to make quality, and that quality comes with a cost, which is you have to make the decision to spend the money on it, but at least it's thorough and thoughtful. The Batman costume was worked on with DC Comics to make sure that it is an authentic Batman, and I think that that's where games are going right now. We just did a partnership with Louis Vuitton, and this can cross over a little bit into the sport world because the deal we made was actually specifically to sponsor our esport tournament, the World Final that we have in November. And the reason we chose Louis Vuitton and started the conversation, and this is something I didn't know prior to going into the deal, Louis Vuitton makes the big trunk that holds the FIFA Cup every year. And they've been doing that for decades. And so there's been this tie to sports that Louis Vuitton has actually always had. They protect, some of the most valuable sports and trophy sports. And we thought, well, we have a cup very similar to the FIFA Cup. Let's talk to them and see if they'd be interested in making a case for our cup. And they did. And I can't talk much more about it today, but in November, you'll all see it. And it's pretty insane what they came up with. And on top of that, my team said, well, if we're going to make a trunk, why don't we do some other things? And it went from having them make a skin for our game to having them decide that they want to make a capsule collection of clothes for retail sale to now having them outfit virtual characters in a music video we're going to release as well. So it's quite interesting to see how traditional sponsors and upper end traditional sponsors want to get involved in gaming as well and find a way for them to be authentic. And to reach new audiences, because anybody on this podcast knows that that's part of the key is reaching new audiences as new generations do or don't get into certain things like the MLB that Jason and I were talking about offline. The younger generation isn't excited to go to a baseball game like they were when Jason and I were 10 and 12, but they are excited to go watch Overwatch League, and they're excited to watch their friend play Fortnite on Twitch not even in a competitive environment, but just playing a game of Fortnite. And it's a very different world. And I think the NBA, the NFL, MLB, you're seeing all of them invest money right now in these teams because they realize there's something there, even if they don't fully understand it. They know that there is an audience that is willingly time shifting, if you will. They don't want to watch a 2-hour game anymore in the stands. They might do different types of experiences, and because they have the money right now, I think a lot of traditional sports teams are finding ways to invest in either technology that fuels esports or actual esport teams, so that they have something to bring to the conversation. They're doing it in almost every state that I know of right now, depending on whether it's an NBA team or an NFL
Yeah,
team.
and then obviously, I mean, I would be the occasional pro Steelers thing on here, but Juju Smith-Schuster is a pretty famous Fortnite player. The great wide receiver from the Steelers who did have a big fumble in the last week, but we won't really discuss that right now. But
It's okay. They had a rough game, but look at season 5 of Ballers. This is not self-promotion for League of Legends. They approached us and said that they wanted to put an esport into the Series 5 season. And we said, well, why? And they said, because we have a professional NFL player in our show that wants to be a 2-sport athlete. And in their story, a 2-sport athlete is an NFL player by day and an esport video game player by night. And so it's going to run through the whole season 5 that one of the players that the talent agents manage is trying to also become an esport professional. And that's a pretty mainstream show to have an NFL type player stating that he wants to be a dual athlete, and the second sport he wants to be is
that
esport
is
athlete.
enormous. Yeah, that's really cool. Well, I guess we'll stick with sort of gaming and business, but we talked a little bit about different ways to monetize, and obviously in-ad advertisements and microtransactions, and then we have Apple, who's never been shy away from the dollar, has their gaming service, which is $5 a month. You get unlimited access to all the games they have on there, some by some pretty good developers, and they promise no microtransactions and no ads. How do you think that model's going to work for them moving forward?
I think they're going to disrupt the industry. I honestly think that they have. I think that they have just totally upset an industry that everybody was okay with playing by the rules. The rules were either make a free-to-play game that's going to have microtransactions, or make a $5 to $10 to even $20 game that you purchase that still may have microtransactions, right? But was the end experience that you purchased. And Apple's saying, we don't have to be the most powerful, handheld game console. That's going to be the Nintendo Switch. But the phone can run a lot of things. And I think they saw that having somebody subscribe for $5 a month with access to over 100 games and promise them no ads, no microtransactions, that they're going to have more people want to stay with that to see what's coming next than to cancel it. Because there's so many people that download a free-to-play game and play it for 2-3 days. In the industry, we look for a 7-day active. If somebody's not active in the game they downloaded on a Monday, the following Monday, they're probably not coming back. And I think Apple's saying, that's fine. If we give you 100 game choices for $5 a month, and this month you play 10 of them, and next month you play none of them, that's fine by us. We're giving you a great service. We're giving developers, which is controversial in our industry, a cut of the revenue, but they're getting into a program that's almost premium, the way that YouTube tried to do, a premium service a while ago. You're guaranteeing advertisers get in front of the best YouTube stars, and you're charging a premium for it. You know that you're going to get in front of the people who have the biggest audiences. And I think Apple's saying, we have hundreds of millions of people with our phones that we know play games. And why don't we try our own hand at this and put out a $5 subscription? And I think that it's honestly brilliant. When I first saw it, I questioned it until I tried a few of the games and realized that even if you like one game, it's worth $5 because you're not paying microtransactions and the game is yours as long as you
Exactly. And it
want it.
also seems like it's a brilliant thing for, they allow you to use, you can use it on you can use it on your Mac computer, you can use it on your iPad, you can use it on your phone. And you can also use an Xbox controller that you probably already have, or a PlayStation controller, or pretty much any controller you have. And you can, for the people that are like, well, I don't like gaming on a pad, they can use a controller, take it out of the thing. And I think the other big thing is, I'm not sure how often this happens, but you see all these horror stories where parents give their kids their phone and all of a sudden they're charged hundreds of dollars in microtransactions and everything else. So now if you're a parent and you have two kids, you can feel safe. Like, I'm paying $5 a month. I'll put the parental controls on so they can only play certain games, but now my kids have games they can play all day long on the iPad, and I don't have to worry about them charging me $1 million or anything else, which is also pretty smart, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a huge thing. I've talked to a lot of parents, and they brought the exact thing you brought up, which is that some of the savvy parents, there's a little app they can get apparently that lets them push a notification if their kid tries to buy something, and it gives the parent a heads up that they need to approve it actually because the account's tied to theirs. But I think as a parent, maybe in the future, I would love to be able to say to my son, like, hey, I'm going to buy this $5 a month subscription for you. And that's it. You get to have an all you can eat from this game service, but that's it. I don't want you to come to me every week and ask for this game or that game. And I think I'd feel pretty good saying with 100 games, you can't find something you like and feel safe they're not being advertised to, and they're not being convinced that they need to buy things in each game. I think that this is where Apple is really smart. And I know you talk about TV and films on this podcast sometimes. Everything I know about the new Apple Plus service for TV that's coming out in November, their quote unquote Netflix, is also going a different route, which is because they have so many phones that will have this, they're not going to try to go into the R-rated side of things. They're going to try to make more family and teenage friendly content and play in that space, saying that Disney's going to play for the kids and Netflix is going to play for, the adults. There's some different stuff on there, but that Apple will actually try to stay within the reins of not making something too adult because they know how many people have these phones. And I'm like, wow, I never thought that would be an angle.
And I know, like, anytime in the next year you buy a new phone, a new computer, or a new iPad or whatever you buy from them, or watch, I think you're getting free access to their service for a year. So they're trying to hook you in with their shows, and and obviously they went Reese Witherspoon and Jennifer Aniston and Jason Momoa,
yeah,
and and Night Shyamalan. Yeah,
and
they're going
Oprah,
big.
you know. Um, and I heard a rumor today that they're actually going to, for existing iTunes, annual subscribers, the people that pay for the iTunes service, I've heard they're going to do a bundle for them. So I'm imagining an email coming soon because I've been an iTunes guy for, 12 years. I assume there's an email coming soon saying, hey, for $3 more a month, you get access to Apple TV. So their ecosystem is insane. We've heard for years they were going to get into gaming, and everybody thought they were going to go the other way. They were going to make a console, or they were going to try to make the Apple TV into a gaming machine. And instead, they took the thing they were already making a large percentage of profit on by allowing game developers to be in their app store to now have app developers make apps specifically for them that they still get a cut of, but now are exclusive to the iPhone. And I've got more reasons to stay within the ecosystem, which is pretty
I already
brilliant.
have a Switch and an Xbox and a PlayStation and an Oculus. But I'm tempted to just get the Apple subscription because it seems like such a good deal. And I've heard, there's a lot of fun games to play on there. And, when you have 5 minutes after work or during work or at the doctor's appointment, that it almost seems worth it rather than downloading a couple games a year for $30. It seems like a great deal.
It is. I got to say that I really think it is. And I think that they will even convert. I think this is the brilliant thing. They're going to convert people who are not fans of mobile games. I am one of those folks. I think you're one of those folks historically. We prefer the controller experience or the console experience. The truth is, Apple's also spent time in China and Southeast Asia. They've seen it like I have after working at Riot. When you go there, you realize that they don't consider it phone gaming. They just consider it gaming. And that's the way India will be. And that's the way parts of the Middle East will be, because those are regions that never had hardwired internet and had the luxury of having a $500 console and a TV to boot. They all have phones. And I think we're going to see a dramatic shift in how many people are doing esports on phones soon as well. Because if you have 100 million players playing League of Legends, you have 300 million players playing some of the biggest games in China on phones. So the market is there to watch people play those games as well.
Well, do we want to discuss Stadia and Xbox a little bit? And I guess Xbox and PlayStation are pseudo teaming up for the all streaming future.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we can definitely talk about Stadia for sure. I'm most up to date on that one specifically.
You're already
today.
a founder, correct, in the Stadia ecosystem?
I am. I'm questioning if I should stay, because I'm starting to think that PlayStation and Microsoft are going to have more up their sleeve for 2020. Well, really 2021, because they're going to ship their new systems at the end of 2020. But I have a feeling that in 2021, they will deliver something that is on par with Stadia in many ways. I think Stadia is doing one thing brilliantly, which is from a browser or from a TV with a Chromecast or from today, and this is why I might not stay within it, an Android device, not an iOS device, you can instantly load a AAA game up without any loading times, without having to download an update, without having to change a video card or any of those things. You just have access to that AAA game right then and there. I think that because they showed their hand and Microsoft was already developing this technology and so was Sony, we're going to see that it's really going to come down to which ecosystem do you want. You and I both know that Sony makes great first-party games. Microsoft has been starting to show that they can do that. Google hasn't shown that yet. Everything Google has shown to me is something that I can get in multiple places. So why do I want another device to register, a service fee to pay, to play the same game that I can have on the next Xbox and on the next PlayStation?
That's
or
how
on my PC that I already have.
I initially was like, oh my God, cool new gaming technology, I got to get in. But then I was like, as an alternative one, that's what makes the Apple one we discussed a little bit more like, this is something a little bit different that gives you, access to games in a different way. Like I said, if you're sitting in the doctor's office or somewhere else waiting or something along those lines, like, it's an on your phone, quick little game to play, as opposed to, I'm so invested in the Microsoft / Nintendo / PlayStation ecosystem. Although Nintendo is obviously going to just Nintendo and not worry about what everyone else is doing. But
I think that if Stadia had made a wide purchase, or Google rather had made a wise purchase a few years ago, they were bidding for Twitch when Amazon was bidding for Twitch. And once the value got to around $1 billion, they decided that it wasn't the right investment for them at the time. I think if they had Twitch and Stadia and they could wrap those things together, I think they'd have something you couldn't ignore. I think because Amazon has Twitch and they're already going into new areas with that, and the consoles are okay with getting into Twitch as well. I just think that Stadia is kind of trying to build its own ecosystem without having original games today and without having a dedicated reason for me to need their thing. If Microsoft can solve what they said they were going to solve, which is you have their console, but you can stream from it on your devices wherever you go, I feel like I would just double down on that ecosystem. And if they sold 2 Xboxes, one that was a better version, which I've heard the rumor of, I would just buy the better version and be happy that I had my own streaming platform versus the way Google wants to do it, which is don't buy the $500 thing. Pay me $15 a month and you have access to servers and you won't ever have to worry about it. But $15 times 12 over the course of a couple of years is far more than $500, which is, of course, the business opportunity they have. And I think, just like you and I know as gym nuts, there is, for as many people as you and I who go to the gym 80% of the days of a month that we can, there are people who are paying $30, $40, $20 a month and don't go ever. And I think that That's the subscription economy we live in. And I think it's why you brought up Apple. They want that $5 a month, whether you overeat or whether you don't at all. And I think we're going to see it with the Stadias of the world, the Sonys of the world, and the Microsofts of the world. That service subscription is what everybody's after. We don't currently have a subscription model for our game, but I wouldn't doubt if in the future we make a game that might support that, because that's the holy grail for anybody. Consistently getting money in, whether a
Yes,
player plays or
definitely,
whether a
definitely.
player buys or not.
Well, since we're sticking mostly gaming, what are you playing right now? Besides, obviously, League of Legends.
Well, I'm actually playing Teamfight Tactics, which is the new game we put out under League of Legends, and we just hit 33 million players of a game that we put out in June, and so we're pretty proud of that kind of surprise. It's like chess, basically, with League of Legends characters, and I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I'm playing Borderlands 3, and I have tried Control recently and didn't enjoy my first hour, but think that I was just maybe too tired or wasn't
Like
paying
you, I'm
attention.
also playing
Need to go
Borderlands
back and
3.
give it
I
a
thought
try
I'd be a
again.
little bit more into it than I am. I'm finally starting to click. I'm like level 18 with one of my character now, and it's starting to feel good again. Then,
Okay, because I hit level 17 last night and actually was just going to tell you that I'm kind of not into it. Um, it doesn't have the pool that I thought it was going to have for me and make me want to
I
play as
think
much.
so
I feel like
too.
I'm doing
The
it
good
because
thing
I
is,
feel like I need to do it.
I have played both solo, which isn't great, and then I played with some people from work, and I had a really good time. Because I would say, and maybe Borderlands has always been this way, and I just didn't notice before, but there's not a lot to the story, the missions. Like it's a bunch of silly jokes, but you're pretty much doing the same thing over and over again. Which I know is technically a video game loop, and that's the loop, and it's shoot, kill, get cool weapons, and move on. But it seems like it's a much. It seems like this one more so than the others is definitely a multiplayer game where you need friends to play with. I think.
I think that was their evolution. I think Borderlands 1, single player game, Borderlands 2, a co op game with some online play. And I think Borderlands 3 said, okay, it's 8 years later. We're in the world of Fortnite and Destiny and Apex Legends. And we're going to need to have a more multiplayer style game, but still appeal to the old faithful who like the single player game. But I think to your point, it could be your taste that have evolved during this time as well. You play a lot of
I
Destiny
think so,
2
and I do
with some of
notice.
your friends
I
from
don't know if
work, and I think
you
that
played
made you
recently.
like the game more.
The patch update they had seemed to make it a better single player experience, which is why I was able to put a couple hours in over the weekend and kind of enjoy myself a little bit more. Because it sort of felt like it was scaled for playing multiple play. It was scaled towards the multiplayer, and I
Uh,
feel like the new update sort of made it. I mean, I don't know if I just found a new gun, but or got better at it all of a sudden. But I felt like I was having a lot more success after the patch came out, and I don't even know if that was part of the patch, but
yeah, I found the performance to be better for sure after the last patch, because I had a few times where I locked out and was kind of frustrated after like going through a whole level and losing the progress. But I think this weekend, I was gone last weekend helping my wife with some stuff, and I think this weekend I'm going to have some time to hopefully dive back in a little further and make some progress. And I know once you unlock all the gun slots and you know get a few more of those abilities and higher tier items, it starts
that's
to
what I've heard as
become
well.
just a lot more
I'm also
fun. And I
playing
know the
Dragon
loop
Quest
starts to become
11S
quite
on
more
the
addictive.
Switch. If you're a JRPG fan, I will say,
On the Switch,
I mean, every
I've
RPG, especially JRPG, has a very similar story. But Dragon Quest 11S has made a lot of quality of life things that you get this spell called Zoom, which doesn't cost any mana or any of your magic points. Which I know this is getting super nerdy talk, but it allows you to fast travel to anywhere you've been in the past. So so you avoid all the backtracking you normally sometimes have to do if you forgot a quest or you forgot an item. You just boom done. You have a party of like 8 or 9 people in your party. It's EXP share, so even if you're not using your players, everyone is already up to you. And then it also has a few things that other JRPGs have never had. you can adjust the difficulty like minutely. So you can have it so that if your character dies, your main character, the hero, if you will, because he's actually literally called Hero, then everybody dies. Or you can have it so that as long as somebody in your party is still living, you keep playing. You can even have it so that once that party dies, everybody on your bench comes in and they continue the fight, and you can keep fighting. So they have these little ways that you can, I don't know. It's been a nice experience.
I've heard great things. I think for me, watching old games come back to a new generation, sometimes I find that if it's not updated, it does feel like it's out of time. And I think I'm glad to see some of these little changes coming. The new Zelda that they remastered for Switch, and then the game you just spoke about, Dragon's Quest. They're taking the time to update them with some changes in mind for a new generation. And I think that um, those are solid things. You're still enjoying it, even though you probably played it, earlier. Um, the Zelda is
Yeah.
like 10 years
And the
old,
other
I
thing I'm
think, maybe
playing,
even longer
speaking
than
of
that.
old
But
becoming new
they
again, I'm
knew they
playing
had to
Northgard,
update it a little bit.
also on Switch, which is a PC title that came out on Switch that if you played Warcraft and Warcraft 1, which are not World of Warcraft, where it's sort of an RTS with, some other things. And it's a really fun, very challenging game. Have you ever played that one?
Is that Northgard? Oh, yes, I do know what you're talking about.
So Northgard, you
I'm
pick,
thinking of Bad North, which is
there's
another game that
different,
just came out this
your
week. But
Vikings basically going to retake your
I've not
land.
played Northgard.
And each Viking tribe or unit has, you can, under whichever banner you're under, you get a few different perks. And you go to a land and you have to, you send out scouts to explore. You build up your military, you build up your farms, and you slowly expand your area. And, you're not actually, you're just sort of, crop managing, building managing, time managing, making sure that there's food and people are happy and all those sorts of things. But it looks and feels a lot like the Warcraft we used to play on PC when we were little, where, which is pretty, yeah. It just so people know that it's a pretty
Well,
challenging game. Like if you're not paying
maybe I'll
attention,
have to
and
check it out.
your people can starve pretty quickly while you're off, building up your military. So you've got to, keep everything in check. But I've had a blast with it. I've really enjoyed it. I'm playing on the Switch. My Switch is my travel, um, you know,
And you're playing on
and
the
I'm on a
Switch.
film set, 5 days a week. So, sometimes I have to be on set super early with nothing to do other than make sure that everything is ready to go for the day. So I get, an hour by myself with nothing else to do, but just make sure nothing is broken and all the electric is working and lights are coming on and all those sorts of things. And during that time, I can pretty much do whatever I want. So I probably should be doing something more productive like reading or writing, but it's nice at 4 in the morning just to play an hour of games while I wait for people to arrive. Do you have any sports you'd like to talk while we're here?
I could see that. Well, I mean, given that I don't know that you and Dad are the biggest fans of Golden State Warriors, I kind of enjoyed watching them lose as severely as they did to the Lakers the other night. Um, I feel like we're going to have a different Golden State team for many reasons this year, and I I know LeBron tries his hardest to always win, but they looked really good. The changes they made in the offseason to me were really felt watching that game since they started with, one
Yeah.
of the
Well,
toughest
he wants to play.
or most financially
He
bought
and
teams
Anthony
there
Davis,
is,
who,
and I was pretty
as a New
impressed.
Orleans person now, I guess for 3 years now, as I live down here and work down here, he's not well liked here because he did literally quit on his team. But he's an amazing talent, and when you pick, you put him with LeBron James, it's probably the best player he's ever played against. No offense to Dwayne Wade or Chris Bosh, but it's hard to imagine either of those guys being as good as Anthony Davis, and that team could be really, really good.
I agree with you. I think it'll be interesting to watch. I don't catch every game, but I watch a few of them, and it's like you. I have now been in LA for over 4 years, so I don't consider myself like a Laker
Understand?
fan, but I've
Yes.
never not liked the Lakers the way that I loathe all of the Boston sports teams, and so I can I can enjoy watching the Lakers from time to time. Um, and then I was kind of sad that I did watch part of the Kansas City game, and I kind of thought that I was going to see Mahomes do some crazy
Well, if we're to
things,
give
and
him a
I
little bit of
didn't
a
quite
pass,
see
they
it in
lost
that
two
game. But
offensive
maybe I was
linemen,
just
two
watching
defensive linemen, and two starting wide
the
receivers
wrong
over the
Kansas
course
City
of that
game.
game. And they're already missing Tyreek Hill. So, but also special shout out to the Colts, who seem like they're just a really well run organization, and they look good. They look, and I mean this in a complimentary way because people have heard me talk
Yeah,
about this
they
team
look
and I
good.
don't like them, but they seem very Patriot-esque, and that they're not going to beat themselves. They have a game plan. They're going to run their game plan, and they're not going to do stupid things. They're not going to get a lot of penalties. They're not. People aren't going to be out of place. They're going to, everyone knows their assignments, and they're going to play. And obviously, they have Jacoby Brissett, who was drafted by Bill Belichick. I mean, you know, it's a compliment. Even though I obviously have disparaged the Patriots.
No, no. Look. The one thing, if I came on a podcast this year, that I was going to say to you and Dad, hopefully not to be disowned as a brother or a son, but this is the year that I stop hating Tom Brady just because he's a Patriot, and that I have to start to respect that Tom Brady is truly a gifted quarterback. And I don't use the words GOAT. I'm not going to say GOAT, but I
Oh,
mean,
I think
every year that
I
I
don't even think
watch,
there's a
whether
discussion.
I want to or not, I cannot
He's
help
been
but realize that he is that good.
fixed. I mean,
And so I decided that 2019 is the year that I stop fighting and hating on
yeah,
him just because he's a
no,
part of an
and he's
organization
taught us all that
and
if you drink
owning
enough water,
staff
you
and
can't get
coaching staff
sunburned,
that I don't
and the
like.
tomatoes are bad. So he's learning stuff.
Hey, and look, I know he's got his own supplement company and all kinds of things, and he goes to bed at 6:30 at night or something. And I don't know what it is, but you and I both played sports for many years of our lives, and
Yeah.
to be able to play at the level he's playing as he approaches, I believe 41 is his birthday this year, or just was. I am eh, doubly impressed
It's
because you and
incredible,
I
yeah.
haven't
And like
taken
I said, I mean,
football
good on
quality
him.
hits in 20 years at the
I
age that
think
we are,
what
and he
helped me get
does.
over it is the fact that there's no longer a discussion. He's won 6 Super Bowls. They've been to 9 Super Bowls as a team during the Brady Belichick era. They've won 6. Like there's no clinging to we have 6 and you only they win. They're the best. It's fine.
I think you're right. I guess my last sport thing that I got to see, I was traveling all weekend, so I didn't get to catch up on a lot of things. But I think I saw a quote today from Mike Tomlin, and I know that I believe you and Dad have sometimes good things, sometimes bad things to say. But I liked his very direct, very Mike Tomlin style quote, and that was that he said when asked about the Redskins' job, he said, "I'm the coach of a one and
Yes.
four team
I
today. That's where my mind is, and that's what I need to worry about, nothing else." Um, which I thought was a good way to say to critics or to the press who's going to ask the stupidest questions ever, like, do you really think that that's where I'm going to go after the performance I've got right now, as well as do you think my
I
mind is on that
I
when
like Mike Tomlin,
that's not
despite what
much
I say
better than
from
the
time to time on the
situation that
show.
I'm
Like
in?
I said, I think he looks and sounds like the perfect NFL. I mean, he gives the best quotes. He's got the best, but on some level, in his 13th season with the Steelers, and given what they've had, like I've wanted Roethlisberger to go away for a while, but that's obviously not going to happen. But with Tomlin, I've gotten to the point now where I almost feel like you've been in like a relationship for a while, and neither of you are bad people, but you might just be better dating other people. You know, there's no hard feelings. I hope you go be successful. I'm going to go be successful with somebody else, and I feel like they might have reached that standpoint where it's just maybe it's time that everybody date somebody new. And then I guess, I mean, we're almost going over on time, but just real quick, is there anything
I
you've
think
been
that's
watching, movie or
a
TV
very good way
that's
of
got
putting it.
you excited?
Here's the thing. I went back to Succession. So I think a year ago when it came out, my wife Linda and I watched an episode one night. I don't know what happened. I think we made it through half of it and we're just kind of like, didn't love the cast or didn't love something and walked away. And then we were bored a week ago and decided to watch the first two episodes again. And though I'm not a fan of like Kieran Culkin's acting, um, I started to kind of like the character development, regardless of how good or not good some of these actors are. And we ended up watching the rest of season one, and we've already started into season two. I don't think we're hanging on by, oh my God, I can't wait to see the next episode, but we are like going to finish it. The other show that we have watched that I'm not embarrassed about, but The Righteous Gemstones. I I don't love it, but there are certain parts of it that are enjoyable for me to go back to, and I do like most of the cast.
Yeah, it's
Minus who
weird
you
about
probably
Adam
know I
Devine,
don't
real
love,
quick.
who's
So, I mean,
Adam
people can be listening or
uh,
not.
Devine, I think his
I
name is, the
like
one from
Workaholics, and I thought he
Workaholics.
was good on Workaholics, but I've disliked him in everything else I've seen him in, including his stand-up. And I don't know what that's about, but that's how I feel about him somehow.
Yes. But those are the two that we have
I
put
actually
time
do. I own it
into.
on iTunes, and I keep
I
meaning to
really want to
watch it. I
watch
was actually looking at maybe starting that
Killing
this
Eve
week.
season 2, but I
I just
currently don't
watched
have
Good
access to
Omens,
it.
the Neil Gaiman show on Netflix, Amazon show. I quite enjoyed it. I actually had to restart it because the first episode I enjoyed, but I watched it on a flight,
Oh,
and then I
the
never went
Amazon
back to
show.
it. But I really did enjoy it. It's a nice, quick 6 episodes, and it's a fun, sort of quirky show. Almost more about friendship than anything else, which is pretty nice. And I think it's well acted and well cast, and it's got its own sort of quirk. And I think that's about all I've been watching. I've watched a lot of bad horror movies lately because it's October or coming up on October, but I haven't seen anything yet worth mentioning, sadly.
Oh, I will say that here's the thing. So I do work on a large global franchise that is League of Legends, and we look at a lot of the models out there like Marvel and other things. I watched Avengers Endgame on the plane from New York this weekend. And admittedly, I haven't watched most of the Marvel games. I actually was pleasantly surprised that I did find it enjoyable. Um, I I like that they dealt with some things and character arcs and deaths and
Right.
things, and it wasn't the Spider-Man type movie that there's this super happy ending of everything. I like the way they
Yes, I know
wrapped
you're
things up, and I thought it was
yeah.
like it showed me that those guys, the what brothers, the uh, I forget, you know who I'm talking about, the guys who did like Captain Marvel and Avengers Endgame and Frozen Winter Soldier. I think it's clear to me that um, they seem to have a vision, and I think as we have all these IPs in the world today on Netflix and on Amazon and in movies and on TV shows, lots of people are now controlling the narratives of lots of different people rather are controlling the narratives of lots of different franchises. So I don't know how many Marvel movies there's been, probably 20 or 30. You know, only 3 or 4 of them are done by these guys, and I think that those ones happen to stand out as being accessible to someone like me that is not a Marvel nut and actually having some type of story arc
Very
that is
nice.
not just
I've often
superhero
said that
save the
going
world
to watching a
or
Marvel movie for me is like going
bad
to a
guy do lots
Chili's,
of bad things and
where
superhero get beat
it's
up and come
fine.
back and save the world.
I don't really want to go back, but if friends invite me and I'm in the right mood, I'll go. I'll have some apps or whatever. But I did, go back to a conversation we had earlier, right before we wrap up. I did pre-purchase the Disney Plus with the 3-year subscription for like $20. It just seemed like a great deal. it's every episode of The Simpsons at the very least, which is a show I just, it's like comfort food for me. And I figured the other stuff, but I do plan on actually giving Marvel a try. Maria and I have said we wanted to, just, it's almost impossible not to watch them at this point and, have a discussion with people. So, I'll go back and see if I can upgrade it to an, I don't know, a Ruth Chris liking or something. Yeah, that's all I can hope for. Well, thank you very much for coming on this week. Yeah.
Nice.
All right. And, like us on all the services. Please rate us on iTunes. It really does help. If you can contribute and become a family member, please go to Patreon and do so. And if not, just listen, tell your friends and all that good stuff. And we are out.